Hello.
Hi. Anybody there? Oh.
Yeah, okay. We never done this before. We're trying it out. So, who are you?
I'm Alina Gabosh. And who are you?
I'm Nicole Shapiro.
Yay.
Yeah.
And what do we do?
Raising kids without sexual shame.
Yay.
What's your life mission?
My life mission is to remove shame and bring joy to sexuality.
Isn't that pretty cool? I don't have a life mission.
Natalie and Lauren.
Lauren.
Hi.
Oh, we did it.
Yay.
So, we've never done this before, so we have no idea how it's going to work out. Let's talk a little bit about what we do. Just
Okay.
because this will stay on Facebook, and so people can see it.
That's
eventually.
right. Yeah. Hi, Lauren.
Hi. Oh yeah, it's Lauren. Hi. Good to see you here. So, so I can say a little bit of some of what prompted me creating this.
Yes.
Between the Brock case and Orlando, I felt a certain sense of urgency, I guess, and true to being the change you want to see in the world, I said, okay, well, we're pretty sure that some sexual shame is involved in both of these incidents.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So this is something we can do. We could spend a half an hour here on this lovely Facebook Live thing that we've never used before, talking to people who want to talk about raising kids without sexual shame. So that's what prompted it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Orlando event has had me in such a twirl of emotions, and this is the bottom line was this young man who committed the horrible crime was somebody who was obviously filled with shame around his sexuality and who he was, and he had no place to go and no place to let it go, and he became a time bomb.
Yeah.
And it's just so tragic.
So one thought I have is if you have specific questions that you want to ask us, please post them in the feed, and then we'll try and address them. One of the things that I think is important to understand in the context of what Alina and I do together is that we see this as a conversation that we want to just keep going. It's like say, let's keep the conversation going.
Right.
We don't believe that anybody knows how to raise kids without sexual shame in a perfect. Yep, got that one figured out. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
we have all the answers,
No,
right?
no, not really.
We don't. We're still discovering lots of answers.
Which, just that in and of itself is healing to the shame issue. We, after 5 years of running this conversation monthly with various groups of people, we walked away and said, okay, what did we glean from these 5 years? And really, it took way more hours to figure out than it probably should have. But really what we came to is that adults just need to talk about sex more. That part of the problem was that adults don't talk about sex enough. And so the result is then when their children have random questions like they have about everything, about sex, then parents they're like, I don't know.
Well, and shame thrives most in the dark.
Right.
That's where it thrives. It's kind of like this icky black mold.
Yeah.
The darker it is, the more it thrives. And so bringing light to it is definitely a way to deal with it.
So the more we have the courage to speak honestly about our own relationship to our own sexuality and the crazy thoughts we have about what is true and what isn't true. Allowing us all to see the mess, right? Like, some people use the term shadow work. It's like taking the stuff out of the shadows. And I think perfectionism is one of the problems that keep us in the shadows, is because we think we got to do it perfectly.
Oh, God.
So it's sort of this like perfect, like, me. I don't know how that played out on this thing. I think it's my friend trying to teach me how to use Facebook Live. So thanks for figuring it out. So the more we can talk about it publicly.
That's right.
Like we are right now. And be honest about our missteps and our confusions. I think we'll make a chink.
Definitely make a chink.
Yeah.
Or two.
Or two.
Or three. Yeah. So, anybody have any questions out there? So we have Melissa and Paula and Diana and Lauren.
thinking about messy.
Messy.
I'm thinking about like when has it been a messy? Because oftentimes on our page, on our Raising Kids Without Sexual Shame page, I'll post conversations that I or other people have had with their children. Right? You post
I
your
post
friends,
some stuff, my friends' stuff. Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes that can give the impression like it's all super clean and wow, so witty and so well figured out. And so I'm trying to think about times when it really just hasn't been like that. Oh, look, there's my friend. See, look, I figured it out. Thank you. So I'm trying to think about a time when it has been, I think that probably for me, when it can be a little bit confusing and messy is, hi Jeremy, is when is around, it's like, and actually I was having this conversation with someone the other day about the line between transparency and confidentiality. Mm-hmm. So I want to be really transparent about how I talk to my kids about sex because I want less sexual shame in the world because I think it's very violent. It causes a lot of violence. And I want to respect my children's confidentiality. So that's a lot of times why you won't know, if I post a conversation, you won't know if it's with my child or with somebody else's child. There's
Right.
really no names there. And that said, like, obviously I'm somewhat a public figure, so people are going to figure out that they might figure some things out about my kids. And then my kids have different levels. So that's super messy for me. So I don't know. I mean, mostly I guess what I do is, like, for instance, Body Storytelling contacted me and asked me if I wanted to be, and you've been in it a number of times.
I've been in it several times, yeah.
And my thought was to share my birth story because I had a really delicious,
Ecstatic,
wonderful birth story. And I said to my daughter, how would you feel about me going up on stage and sharing your birth story? And she said, no. And so obviously my relationship with my child is very important to me. And so if she says no, then there's a consent concern for me. And so the answer was no, I did not need to do it. There are plenty of ways where I can be facilitating this conversation and trying to help there be less shame without
doing it on stage
and without overtly
yeah.
overtly crossing a line of consent. Right? It was very clear.
Well, and you modeled something I think that's really important, and that's you respect your child's nose, which is something that many parents don't. Go hug grandma. I don't want to hug grandma. Go hug grandma. And you are so good at that. It is one of the things that you model so well with your kids.
You're making me think about when one of the things that was the most challenging for me around respecting my child's nose is the car seat.
We do things for safety. Sometimes we have to explain to them that I can't listen to your nose.
It's like I know bodies really well because I've been a body worker for forever. And so, I can feel that their body really has no interest in being in the car seat. And so with my my first child, sometimes we'd be in the car for like 2 hours while I waited for consent. And that was super edgy for me. Super, super, super edgy. I didn't do that with my second child. With my second child, it's also complicated with the second child because then you have two children that you're keeping track of, and that you can't quite be as indulgent, right, as with the first. So that was the thing. I had to get really clear that this is about safety, and it was also about respecting our time. But again, right? I mean, that's all super messy. I'm not going to say I knew how to answer that. I didn't know exactly what it was. I was trying to take them into account as much as I could, while also taking into account, any other agreements that we had with anybody, or I don't know, dinner, we can't really stay in the car and not eat dinner. I can't really leave her in the car while I go get dinner and bring it back to her while she doesn't get in the car seat. So yeah, hearing the no's, it can be really edgy.
You can respect the no's and still be clear that we can't, I hear you no, it is, you said no, and your safety is first, and you're going to be in the car seat. So.
Yeah, so that's probably one of the more messier ones for me. Another one I would say that was. Well, do you have any messy ones?
Messy
We
ones?
want to talk about the mess,
Messy,
right?
the
because
messy.
I really don't want to give the impression.
The phone
like
call
we
I got
figured it
from
out.
the school about my 14-year-old stepson, when I was, or 13-year-old stepson getting caught having oral sex with an 18-year-old girl behind the dumpster at the high school. And the first thing I thought was, oh God, he didn't get her pregnant. That was the first thing I thought.
Right.
He wasn't having sex with her.
Yep.
And and it prompted a great conversation when he got home. You know, and we'd always, sorry, Anthony, if you hear this, I love you. No.
Right,
it gets
again,
messy, yeah.
Confidentiality and transparency, right?
No, my kid is amazing, and he grew up to be phenomenal. At 11 years old, we're watching a TV show about teen pregnancy, and he looked at me and goes, if I get a girl pregnant, will I get grounded? And I'm like, yeah, for a lot of years.
Yeah,
like life.
and without you doing anything.
Without me doing anything, yeah. And that prompted a great safer sex conversation that we probably wouldn't have had. I was not expected to be a mother, and all of a sudden I had an 8-year-old living with me, and it was an interesting experience.
You know, I think what you're saying is also another important, like what that is, you're modeling for us something that I've heard Joe Langford say, I've heard Amy Lang say, we definitely say it, and it goes along the line, this thing of keeping the conversation going and adults just needing to talk more honestly about sex, it is this thing, which is that we want to be sexperts. Like, I want to be the person that my child knows they can go to, like, for the answers to questions about sex, which I hear that the fact that he even asked you that question to me is huge progress, right? I mean, how many people did we hear in our discussions on raising kids without sexual shame that said they didn't even get the talk, right? Didn't some people just have a pamphlet pushed under their door?
Oh, I didn't even get that.
Yeah.
My stepmother, I said, I was 11. Where do babies come from? To her credit, she used proper terms. She said, what do you think? And I don't remember the words I used, but I told her what an 11-year-old thought. And she goes, that's correct, except the proper term is penis and vagina. And so to her credit, she said that. And that was it. I never had another conversation about sex, except for my father telling me I couldn't date a guy who had been divorced because he only wanted one thing. And he was the nicest man I'd ever met in my life at the time. So we don't get to have those conversations. However, now we do. And one of the best things that
You mean you do now with your parents?
My stepmother and I haven't talked in years about things like that, but my mom and I talked. My mom, for my mother's birthday, or Mother's Day many years ago, I took her to she's married to an amazing man. My stepfather's incredible. And I took her and got her a full body massage and a facial and this whole thing. And she comes out of it and she goes, she says, that was kind of erotic. And I said, good, Mom, it should be. It's okay to have erotic.
It's okay to have a body and feel it.
And that was a great thing that I could give her that gift. And I felt really happy about that.
You know, I mean, you're broaching on the whole, what is erotic and what is sex.
Yeah.
Right. And so
we get confused about it.
Yeah, really confused. And this is one of the things that, really, I've been massaging people since before I went through puberty. So I've had my hands on bodies for a very long time. And have danced and done yoga and meditated. And, growing up in the ashram and being in performance, like being in my body is something that's very natural to me. I didn't realize that all these people were being taught to be out of their bodies, actually.
Yeah.
So, to me, that is the erotic. When I am in meditation, I am connecting to the erotic. Being sexual is a different thing. They're related, right? Our Venn diagrams, all our lovely Venn diagrams.
They're related, but they're not the same.
But they're not the same. Yeah. And unfortunately, again, around there not being enough dialogue and conversation and, also this thing of like, experiencing something like that, your mom could come out of that massage and say, oh my God, to you, and speak that, as opposed to just like, we're just going to go into denial and act like that didn't happen, right? Like I want my children to have those conversations with me too, right? Like
Absolutely.
I felt this in my body. We love you too, Lupe. I want my children to know what their bodies feel like, and to help them navigate understanding their feelings in their bodies. And so if the erotic is conflated with sex, that you got no palette. That would be like, oh, there's only 3 colors, red, yellow, and blue. And if pink got put on the table, like, you just act like there's no pink. It's just red.
It's red.
Yeah, right? You know, it's really... So unless we can... So, and then all of that depends on our own ability to assess that for ourselves, right? So that goes back to this thing that we're saying, which is that we all need to really talk about sex more.
So the one thing that since I biologically never had any kids, I had an awesome stepson for a while until his father and I split up and he moved off. But what I became was the Auntie Mame of all my friends. Mm-hmm. And I was the adult that their kids could come and talk to about anything. And I had agreements with my best friend, Meryl, and with another friend of mine, that their daughters and sons could come and talk to me about anything. And unless I thought it was life-threatening, I would never go and tell their parents, which meant I found out about my friend's daughter being queer before they did. I was able to talk to them about sex. I was able to talk to them about life in general and things that they didn't feel safe talking to their parents. Even really cool parents, sometimes you don't feel safe talking to your parents. And I was really honored to be that Auntie Mame, that person that they could talk to. Mm-hmm. And I had some amazing experiences. My goddaughter Ty is one of the most amazing women on the planet, and I was able to have chats with her. She came to me, I'll give a little story, it's okay to say this. She came to me one day and she goes, oh, Aunt Nina, that's my nickname, Nina. She goes, oh, I'm straight. And I said, what do you mean you're straight? She goes, oh, I tried girls twice, it didn't work. And she wanted so not to be straight, right? And we were able to have those awesome conversations, and still do. She's amazing. She's in her 30s now and grown up and phenomenal. And I take a little credit.
Of course. Right, which is the community piece. And we have had a lot of people show up to these discussions that don't have children, but know that this is an important conversation. And I always think about the fact that you I think you're totally awesome and brilliant. And so I'm thinking that right now. But one of the expressions of that brilliance was that you were even clear enough to say, I can play this role. Right? I could play this role. And what that's empowered me to do is check in with the parents of the kids that play with my kids, and say, how are you about the fact that this might come up? My kids they're not in the dark about these things. The beautiful thing is a lot of the people that are around me know that I do this. And so they're already cognizant of the fact that I'm somebody that, these conversations would happen with. And if you are a parent, what I think about in your Auntie Mame story is, if you are the parent that doesn't feel terribly comfortable talking about it and is still working on, what we've learned, and I continue to learn, is much of this shame comes out of violence. It's not to be taken lightly. And if I've had something really violent happen to me sexually and I haven't worked through all the feelings of that, it's pretty darn understandable that I would get choked up around my feelings when I have to talk to my kids about it, right? Because I'm going to be remembering those feelings of the violence that took place, right? So super awesome if you have community members that can support your child to learn about sex while you're still figuring out how to recover from whatever happened, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I see a question.
How old were your children when you started having open conversations? Always. There's never not been an open conversation. It's pretty child-led. Just even simple things like, I remember when my children were babies and they would they would touch their genitals or point to even different parts of their genitals. just like any other part of the body, we would talk about the names of them and what they were. Feelings, I think of feelings and sensations as being part of sex ed. I really believe sex education happens every day.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
ongoing.
It's an everyday thing, whether it's the conversation of she just asked you not to touch her and you need to hear the fact that she just asked you not to touch her, or it's what happened in Orlando, Mom.
So maybe instead of saying sex education happens, education happens constantly, and part of it is sex, right? Mm-hmm. So we like to put it in a little box. We're going to define sex education. No, educating your children constantly about consent, about sexuality, about violence, about all of what the world around you. It's an ongoing thing.
Yeah. Oh, Dustin, hi.
Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah.
He went through my mom's massage school. I've known Dustin since I was very little.
Yes, Jennifer, it does. It has to be an everyday thing, constantly. It's a constant.
So what I can say is, taking that on as it's a conversation every day, what I'm also taking on is the courage to face my own discomfort around it. Which that's also an everyday thing. But see, I had an activist as a mom. I had a mom who forged things that didn't exist before, right? I mean, in 1978, she became a massage therapist at a time when massage therapy was not even really a phrase people used.
No.
So I have a lot of enculturation into dealing with feelings of discomfort. So, but not particularly around sex, because it was pretty sex positive in my home, but it still wasn't totally clear, right? I mean, we're talking about how each generation, the children don't come in with sexual shame, right? And so we can learn from our children how to reduce our own shame, really. And so some of that, I still push my mom's limits around that, and I'm sure my children will be pushing mine. So what I want to say is my being able to be the sexpert in my home for my children, and to have everyday sex education conversations over the gamut of the topic requires me to have a lot of presencing and grounding skills so that I can do that, and I can do it well. So rather than dissociating and just giving them a book, we have this book here, or slipping a pamphlet under their door, or taking them over to somebody else, right? If I want to do it, I have to be able to deal with my own discomfort around sexuality. So one way that played out, for instance, is in first grade, a boy came up to my daughter and said, "You sexy." God. And so she came up to me and said, "What does that mean?" And I said, "I need a day." Because I could tell that I couldn't think straight right there when she asked me about it. So I was going to need a day to think about it. And I use holistic peer counseling quite a bit. So I did some peer counseling work with my community to get to what I actually thought it meant. Because that was part of what was making it hard for me to answer that, is that I didn't actually know what I thought that word meant. So as her mother, I couldn't actually give her a definition. And as soon as I started to think about what I actually think sexy meant, I came up against all these other people that have different definitions of what they think sexy meant. And so it became another exercise, really, in me going, I'm the mother, and this is what you got, right? I mean, anybody who's a parent has gone through the experience of the, what's it called? The peanut gallery, telling us how we should do this. And I don't like oppression. So I don't like to parent based on the peanut gallery. I like to parent based on my own sense of values and integrity. So I needed a day to figure that out. And I actually was pretty happy that it only happened in a day. Okay, we got something here. Some of my children are open to conversations, but two are very closed to it. She shuts off. walks away, doesn't want to have any touchy-feely conversations at all. I don't know how to break through. Oh, that's really, we've had that come up in the groups before. Books. And
Sex.
books just around the house, right? Like, I remember this dad was talking about that, and he was his child didn't live with him all the time, so that also felt extra edgy for him, because you know, the intimacy is a little different when you don't see your child every day, all day. So he would leave books around in lieu of actually trying to have a conversation, and then he would notice that all of a sudden his child was looking at the book.
And just being open to it, just be ready, not pushing it, not expect the long conversation. It might just be little tiny pieces, like they might ask you one question, answer it, and then that's all they want to know. And having a person like me in their lives, and anyway, somebody to talk to that's not mom and dad. For sometimes it's really hard to ask mom and dad the questions that they want to ask. Yeah.
I think too, if we were really in more of a dialogue setting, like when we do Raising Kids Without Sexual Shame, it's a 2-hour facilitated conversation. So it really is a back and forth. So I think I would probably look at that question a little more closely. Like, I have one really extroverted child and one more introverted child. And so, but meanwhile, the introverted child is like aware, right? So maybe modeling is more of how hi, Jennifer. Modeling is more of how that education is happening with her, or she's hearing the conversations that I'm having with other people or other children,
right.
But she's not, we're not having direct conversations. I don't know if that helps a little bit too.
And some kids just aren't touchy-feely. So giving them space to just ask when they ask, and let them know that they have permission to be however it is, and when you're ready, I'm here for you, and then not pressure them.
Right.
Not pressure them.
We talk a lot too about it being child-led, really responding to the questions that to me, that feels also like, okay, I'll be really honest. I want sex to be people-led. Like, I want people in their bodies actually engaging with each other and moving at the pace that works for each other. So to me, that's how I want the conversation to go too. So I don't want to force it down their throat. And I guess there are certain things like, I don't know, we can talk about rape, right? Like, I have to think about how I want to talk to them about it, because it's not like I'm going to wait till they have a question about some of these things until I discuss it with them, because I feel like it's important that they know that it's out there and it's a thing. So to me, that's a little bit more edgy. Going back to the messy thing, it's a little bit more edgy for me to bring up conversations about things about sex, as opposed to waiting for them to come to me with questions. So what that means for me is, if I'm going to bring it up, I'm going to be really slow. Totally sounds like sex, right? I'm going to be really slow and really attentive. So we might only get like this much at a time, because that's all that they can really
absorb at the time.
Yeah, assimilate and integrate. Yeah. We just got a couple more minutes, right?
Really?
Can you tell what time it is?
It says 11:28.
We got 2 minutes. Any burning questions?
We're gonna do this again.
Anything you want to say? Any stories you want to share? We can read them if you write them down. Why are you here? Why don't you tell us why you're here? Do you care?
We will do this again.
Just want to see our beautiful faces.
That's it. Yeah.
I have the same thing, as your friend, and I actually just was talking about that on Facebook. Is I grew up, my whole community was queer, so I'm still confused that I'm straight. I just totally don't get it. Totally don't get it. Did you know you're amazing?
Coming out to a preteen.
Coming out what?
How can we dress Orlando with our kids?
Oh, good. You see, here now are all the questions. If people want to work with us one-on-one, Totally.
We're available.
Yep,
Definitely.
totally. We both do coaching stuff.
Hit the see more there. I was curious about that.
Okay. How do we talk about Orlando? I had a really interesting experience about the Orlando thing. My children are aware that hate is something that gets translated towards certain groups of people. So we were talking about this being that this man went to a gay club and shot a bunch of people. And one of my children, and I think it was my younger one, said, well, how did he know it was a gay club unless he was gay and went there?
And this was before.
And this was before it came out.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think within 5 hours or something, I saw that that was the case. So again, I guess, Mary, my answer to that question is really slowly. It's like a tickle. Like, I kind of tickle them with pieces of the information. I'm trying not to avoid my own discomfort around it, recognizing that my own discomfort may be keeping me silent. So I sort of push into my own discomfort just a little bit and just sort of dust the information, and then I pay attention to their questions and I try and answer their questions.
And your last question is, should I have kept silent? I think that silence is where fear breeds, is like shame breeds, and talking about it and bringing it out in the open. And yeah, we're all afraid.
I think the age matters too. I mean, my kids are 7 and 10. There can be a little bit more conversation around it than when they were 2.
And it's okay to be afraid.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. You know, we're afraid. A lot of us, a lot of my friends and family are afraid now because of what
we're marching in the
more
pride.
Afraid.
We're marching in the Pride Parade. I'm afraid.
Yeah. So, good for you for not keeping silent and just being with her for it, because it does cause pain, and we can't protect our children from pain. In fact, pain's about growth, and this is how we grow, and we can't protect them.
Pain, not suffering. Silence
Right.
keeps us in suffering, I would say.
Thank you. That's
right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Someone says coming out to a preteen. Yeah, I think we got to talk one-on-one about that one. I know there's more in there than that little question's gonna say. But I would say, I guess what I would say that makes me think about is my own level of comfort about who I am. And so that when I am, it's a coming out, right? It's like a coming out, which really is going to request of me that I feel really proud of who I am.
So here's one thing, is if you're always out, you don't have to come out, right? So just be who you are, and your children will just, in fact, almost everybody I know who has been, when they came out, everybody's like, I already knew. It was like, I knew you were gay. I knew you were queer. I knew that, right? For a lot of people, that's the thing. So just be who you are. There's no coming out with your kids. Just be with your kids.
My mom was really uncomfortable.
And answer their questions.
I can say that my mom was really uncomfortable around her relationship with women, her relationships with women. And I was really mad when I found out that she wasn't honest with me about it. I was way more upset to know that she wasn't honest with me than I ever would have been to have, and we've had great conversations about this, right? I mean, this person also knows me and my mom, so it's been just another way for us both to learn and deepen our relationship with each other and ourselves. And she was scared. She, we're talking about in a different era, and she was scared that I could be taken from her. That's what she was scared of. I don't think we live in quite that hostile of a...
No matter how scared.
Nod. You're awesome. I think you're awesome, Jennifer.
Just let us see him happy and around each other. Thank you, Jennifer. Exactly. That's it. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to stick to the boundary on time, even though we're 3 minutes over. Raising Kids Without Sexual Shame. It's our Facebook group. If you want to work one-on-one with us, we're totally here.
Absolutely.
If you want us to come into your group of people and facilitate a conversation, even remotely, we could always do it through Google Hangouts. Let's address this, shall we? And
we'll be back.
And get out of the suffering.
Yeah.
Mwah! Bye.
Bye.